Welcome back. We're discussing the relationship between Muslims and Christians and the value of dialogue between their religious leaders. With us is Dr. Ingrid Mattson, the president of the Islamic Society of North America, who joins us from New York, and Dr. Miroslav Volf, the director of the Center for Faith and Culture at Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut, from where he joins us. Let's get back to our discussion with a caller on the line from Jordan. Nasser, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for this outstanding program.
Thank you.
Indeed, I'm concerned that not enough is being done because actually since September 11th, the negative image that has been perpetuated throughout the world, particularly in the United States and Western Europe, vis-a-vis the image of Muslims, and in particular, if we refer even to the events that have taken place in Europe vis-a-vis, the cartoons portraying the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a very negative image and so forth. Not enough is being done to actually put an end to this very negative image, and Muslims are not responsible for it. Actually, September 11th is being condemned by the majority of the Arab and Islamic world and by Muslims in general. We don't accept what have happened in September 11th. We condemn it.
Nasser, let me ask the professor here on this subject. Then, what can be done in terms of real hardcore action, particularly, I guess, say from the Christian perspective, on trying to change the negative stereotypes which many Muslims feel are being perpetuated and enhanced in many places?
I think it's very important to attend to this issue because the way we perceive the other, that's how we act toward the other. And I think Muslims are right to be concerned about how they're being perceived, just as Christians also are right to be concerned as to how they can be perceived. And I think this is a big task before us. We have addressed that very issues with scholarly papers on this very topic, and I think we have to address it all the way from the high academic level, all the way to our congregations and through our media, making sure that we are truthful when we speak about the other, making sure that we practice love of neighbor even as we speak about the other. Truthful speech is loving speech, and loving speech is truthful speech. And that's why we have to attend to this issue very, very carefully, because every time I stereotype, I insult, I demean, I practice non-love, so to speak, toward the other.
Well, we've got a call on the line from Malaysia. Zanoon, thanks for staying up and joining us for this show. Please go ahead, and thanks for your patience.
Okay, I will wait.
Go ahead, Zanoon. What's your question, please?
Okay. Love of God and love our neighbor. Are we actually loving our God and our neighbor, or are we loving ourselves more? Who is the object here, God or ourselves?
I guess, Dr. Mattson, the point Zanoon's making is that perhaps a lot of us have lost our spirituality and I guess in the material world have forgotten the true meaning of loving God and loving the neighbor and focused on personal concerns.
Well, absolutely. The loss of deep spirituality and an ethics based on a true commitment to serving God and serving God through service to humanity is something that we see that is very problematic in today's world. We are living in a materialistic time, and this is why those people who say that religion is the problem in today's world, I think need to take a step back and think about the kind of environmental, economic, political problems that have been brought to this world by a disconnection from God, a sincere connection with the divine, a sincere sense of awe at the divine creation is something that can be a source of solution for many of these global problems that we face together.
You know, we had an email, and Professor Wolf, if I could put this to you, this came in from MJ Kneiser, who describes themselves as a born-again Christian. Don't know if it's a man or a woman, but MJ Kneiser wrote in saying, real Christians in America are as conservative in their morals and values as any Muslim, and we are as appalled by what we see on American TV, and the moral direction our country is taking. I think the problem Western Christians have with Islam is that we see all the violence between the Islamic groups over how they interpret their own religion and the extremists who are intent on wiping Christians and Jews off the face of the earth. It's repugnant and makes no sense to us. And as Dr. Mattson was talking, we had pictures of the King of Saudi Arabia who'd hosted an interfaith dialogue in Madrid, and he actually was then condemned by one of Al-Qaeda's leaders who called for his killing because of this interfaith dialogue, saying that religions couldn't be equated because then it would put Islam along with the rest. Now I wonder how the Christian faith is unnerved perhaps by extremism like this, and how that extremism can be marginalized with the help of Christian leaders?
Well, I think Christians are very much concerned about extremism in all circles, Christian as well as Muslims. But I think it's not just religious leaders that have a task to deal with extremists. You know, it's always the question, why is it that the extremist voice gets to be always heard? And I think media has a role to play in it. There are other structures that also have a role to play. And this is kind of concerted cultural effort that we have to make in order to make sure that religion is not perceived in the public opinion through the through the lens of an extremist action, which is always, I think, a temptation. And I think the person who sent an email writes correctly that Muslims and Christians are bound not just by love of God and love of neighbor, they're also bound by many common moral convictions to the good of humanity and for the flourishing of the humanity. And we have to emphasize those, and we have to make sure that extremists are understood extremists, and that we know exactly what numbers are we talking about. Great majority, I think, is not extremist, and great majority uses their faith in order to help and foster human flourishing rather than divide, rather than stunt human life.
Muhammad Osman in Mozambique, good to have you back on the show with us. What's your question, please?
Hi, this is Muhammad Osman. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the my question is simple. I would like to listen a little bit more about the opinion of the Cardinal Ratzinger about this interfaith dialogue. We got the opinion of both the lady and from the gentleman, but what is the real opinion of the Vatican and what they can do to change? Because whenever is any bomb in Spain, the first thing we think that is a Muslim. So how can we manage to change these ideas?
Okay, let me get that question to Dr. Matson. And actually, Dr. Matson, if I may, it's just an email that we got in, which the viewers won't be able to see, but I'll read out to you, from Lilian in Greece. Lilian Alexakou, who wrote it with a number of issues, but just also asked the question, is evil the necessary bitter ingredient in the making of this delicious dish called World of Love? And bringing up the issue there that we had from Muhammad Osman, is this issue that he raised one that you have to deal with, getting the kind of leadership at the top and getting the Islamic world to be able to connect with the Christian leadership at the top to get some positive results?
Well, let me say that the common word movement is something that's ongoing, and once we finish with this conference at Yale, not only will there be a conference in Cambridge in October, but there will be a meeting at the Vatican with the Pope in November. And so there has been responsiveness on the part of the Vatican, and we're really looking forward to that opportunity to engage in a deeper discussion of our shared and common values. The question of evil, you know, this is one of the things I'd like to go back to what an earlier person said about religion being the cause of violence. It's not religion that causes violence, it's human beings who start wars, it's human beings who are violent. We have that tendency towards violence. We also have a tendency towards love. And no matter what institution we're in, whether it's political or religious, there will always be that temptation. And so it's our responsibility to use our religions and live our religions as they are truly, which is not as a cause of violence.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there. We've run out of time, but I want to thank you and Professor Wolf for joining us. Thank you very much.
Thank you
for having us.
Thanks. Join us as we speak to the star cast of Little Mosque on the Prairie on the next show. Thanks for being with us.